Alright, let's go into it. Apparently, it says a lot about the personality. His most aved listeners that Don extolled as the morning man, covered by stations across the nation as their wake up guy. Seriously, who can sleep through a boss serious. Welcome to the yarn of a new day. Coo the cowboy, the cowbell. Haven't skated through a May read of stations in the heartland. Don finally hit the big time at Whiskey in Dixie, WQXI in Atlanta, Georgia. It was the mid-60s as we excitedly watched our government's race for space. Don played the top 30 recent hits like Marvin Gaye and Kim Wilson's It Takes Two in 1966. But he just couldn't leave it alone. It Takes Two, my favorite number. That's what it's all about. Friends, the nitty-gritty, of course, is to simplify things. That's faster way to get a man on the moon is to put a woman there first, right? Question mark. Dr. Don Rose topping on February 5th and February 12th, 1968 at WQXI. Top 30 survey lineup with Stu Collins, Bob Todd, and Jim Jeffries. Chris Stevens, Gary Gregory, Joe Kelly, and Rockin' Ruby. Remember, Ruby always looked both ways before crossing the street. Don left WQXI for WFIL in 1968. Around the time Jay first recalls the popular DJ in front of a large crowds and big station promos. Sometimes he brought the fun home. I was playing out in front of our house and he came driving up in the Batmobile, recalled Jay. Maydad superhero. It stayed parked in front of our house for a couple days. How to become the most popular kid in the neighborhood. This is Dr. Don, laughing and scratching. If you laughed once with him, you were hooked. Jay thinks his oft-used unique two-punchline delivery rated chuckled along with it, followed by one with a deeper meaning. Like all comic relief, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Jay said those who got it, and the ones who didn't wouldn't be offered. Long lone moon of BC himself. Jay must. There's really an art to that, to do it successfully on daily basis. I didn't realize how complex he really was until a few years before he died. We spent a lot of time together and he had all these theories I didn't even know he had. Fascinated by his dad in radio, Jay prefers the energy of end of things where he still excludes today. Dr. Don Rose hit his stride in the 1960s and provided his staying power through more than 40 years of radio music and made him. No proof this line hit the airwaves in 1967 when WQXI applies as much today. Dr. Don Rose reminding you with a man's ability to think, reason, and compete. We can now pinpoint most of our current problems. The trouble is we can't solve them. He ended in 1960s and spun into the early 70s, spinning the Boss 30 at WFIL. Dr. Don had a few more years to tickle in the funny bone of Philly fans before his must whispered, "Go West, young man." Dr. Don Rose, always a fan favorite on WFIL at Boss 30, October 5th, 1970. Coming around the 70s, Dr. Don needed a doctor. Arriving in California in the fall in 1973, we never heard the pain behind the air smile, a butch heart surgery we listeners never heard complain except the form of a joke. We'll be back with more.